Hello, welcome to the 19th episode of the Select Characters Podcast. I'm Sam Yates. I'll be your host, and joining me in line at the bank, I have three of my friends with me. I have Christopher Anderson cashing his weekly paycheck. How are you?
Hey man, this paycheck is looking rather bleak.
Payday is best day.
Unless you work in music or video games, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably true. But cashing a check at the bank and holding cash in your hand, no matter how small.
Yeah, that always feels good. Always.
It always feels good. It always does. And right behind Chris, I have Enrique Cancel here to juggle the amount of funds in his savings account and negotiate an interest rate. That's what you do with a savings account, right? I don't know. I've had checking forever. But how are you?
Let's get economic.
Wait, can you actually negotiate an interest rate?
No,
is that a thing that happens
I'm sure
over
it's a
there?
thing.
No.
We'll find out.
What?
Not on a savings account. It's like 0.2%, and like that's it. It sucks, kind of.
Okay then.
I mean,
Yeah.
Either we'll negotiate or rob the bank. Either way.
Either way, Ryan Dildine right behind Enrique here to take out a loan for a brand new car.
Yep, that's what I'm here for. It's a nice car.
What kind of car is it going to be?
I want a plane actually. So it's going to be quite a big loan.
So let's just throw realism out of the window right away.
Yeah, it's a big loan. So
You can always ask. They don't have to say yes.
yeah, all I can say is no.
So stay tuned. We got a great show lined up, and let's talk about what we've been playing. And it has been, as always, another great week for video games. So let's go round table and talk about what we've been playing. Let's start with Enrique Cancel.
I actually picked up Cthulhu Saves the World on Steam, and it's actually pretty fun.
Oh.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like Shovel Knight, where it's a throwback to the old school RPGs. It looks very like like that 16-bit you'd see in like the Super Nintendo, but it's got a really fun story. You're basically play as Cthulhu. You're about to destroy the universe, and somebody curses you, and seals away almost all of your power. And the only way you can unseal it is by becoming a true hero. So you have to save the world to destroy it.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great classic plot line. Get your powers back.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's got a lot of like tongue-in-cheek humor, which is really funny. It kind of attacks a lot of those little tropes you see in gaming, especially in RPGs with like the hero and all that. Because at the end of the day, you're still Cthulhu, and the only reason you're even trying to help people and become a hero is because you just want to enslave humanity.
Plus, Cthulhu in this game looks ripped as fuck.
As an old god should be.
He did not skip leg day.
Nah, but I mean, the writing is actually really funny too. There's a lot, like I said, like the jokes, and a lot of it's just really entertaining.
I've looked at that game a few times and thought about buying it, and also sort of mildly thought about playing that game, Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden.
I don't think I've heard that one.
That's like another one of those sort of satirical kind of turn-based RPGs or something. There's like, they took the sprites from a bunch of Super Nintendo games, and then I think the story is something like somebody does a basketball dunk, or they have the potential to do like a super dunk that can destroy the world, and then it's like tying in all these like turn-based, Final Fantasy style games, but with this absolutely insane story. Yeah, that's another one of those weird little things I've been thinking about touching on someday.
They're fun. I mean, it was on Steam for I think it was like $1.99. So I'm like, you know what? Why not?
Cool.
Yeah, why not? Anything else?
That and Deus Ex Human Revolution, just because with all the talk that they had about the pre-order bonuses and crap like that, kind of made me want to play the original game again.
Do you guys want to talk about the pre-order stuff? Because these are especially egregious.
Why though?
I mean, tiered rewards for pre-ordering, and the highest tier is releasing the game 4 days early, I believe. But we all know that they're going to hit it anyway, because not hitting it will make them look bad. Yeah, and they sort of hold content hostage, actively hold it hostage. Like, if you don't pre-order, you're not getting all these things, even though, you are getting the things, but still.
Look,
I'm not so much worried about the content being held hostage, but I did notice that this kind of it turns regular players into your hype men for the game. It's it's a way to kind of like, it sets us like this perpetual motion machine of like marketing, where all you have to do is input the one variable, and it just starts taking care of itself.
Yeah,
I'm with you. What I don't understand is why sort of like people get upset about it, because they're just doing the thing that they're going to do. Like, it's their job to try and convince us to pre-order, and it's our job to say, nah. But I don't know why we have to get all worked up just to say no.
yeah, I just feel like it's like, just sell it to me. Like, it's worked for thousands of years. Just sell me the thing I want to buy. Let me have it. You get your money. Don't mess with that formula. There's no need.
I don't think people understand why they're upset. I think they just like being upset at the concept of pre-orders, but nobody really understands why.
And I can understand why they're angry in this case, because of the specific types of content that they are, quote unquote, holding hostage.
Yeah.
It's a part of the soundtrack, it's a novel, it's a comic book, it's an extra mission, and 4 days early.
I think I just get irritated because nobody does anything about it. It happens every time some big pre-order debacle comes out. Everyone unites for about a week saying, this is bullshit, we're never going to pre-order again, and they completely forget about it. They're like goldfish.
Or the people who aren't pre-ordering are like, maybe they're 100% successful, but the problem is there's like how many millions of people who have never heard about that don't care, or just happen to walk in GameStop while they were at the mall. Like, what you need to do is organize yourselves and find out how to reach those people if you really want to stop pre-orders. Like, getting mad and yelling with each other and getting all worked up together, it's not going to help in your little corner of the market. You need to reach out to like the larger audience, because those people outnumber you, and as long as they're still pre-ordering, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything.
Plus,
most people are very apathetic.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like at the end of the day, there's still going to be a huge number of people that says, fuck it.
Yeah, but I do understand why the vocal minority is as vocal and as angry as they are, because I find this, like, stuff like this has happened in the past, but I think that this is the worst it's ever been, because they are dangling the release date in front of your noses, and like, if you don't buy the game now, you're not getting it early.
And if that's true, it means that it's starting to work. Like, the anti-pre-order movement is starting to roll forward, because that's the company's job. They're just doing their job, trying to get you to pre-order. They're just doing what they do, you know?
It seems like an act of desperation, really.
So maybe it's starting to take hold. I don't know, but it seems like, just in the larger sense, that the pre-order thing is, I don't know, slow to grow maybe, or like the movement is slow to grow.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So, Human Revolution. It's a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not even the first one, though.
No.
You've got the first one, and then there's another one in between that we cannot speak about.
Can't remember what the
Speak
name was.
of Invisible War.
Yeah, Invisible War. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
Nah, it was alright, but it was a very good Deus Ex game. I think that was why people didn't like it. But Human Revolution, on the other hand, I think that is one of the best realized cyberpunk games in recent memory.
I think the first one's the best one.
Yeah. And I think Shadowrun handles Cyberpunk a little bit better, just because like the whole noir setting, but it's still fun. And I specifically wanted to play that one because I wanted to go through Adam Jensen's story.
Oh yeah, he's a really cool character. Great voice actor too.
Yeah, I never asked for this. I always die a little bit inside because I like to kind of just say that little, that little quote, and I like to see people's reactions of who understands like the little joke and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So next week, you'll play the first one, maybe?
Maybe I'll go back.
I think the first one's the better game. I mean, I don't know if that's a controversial opinion or not.
No, that seems to be the prevailing opinion, actually, among fans.
And so, like, I see trailers for the new one, and it's just hard for me to get excited, because I know the roots of that game, and it's nothing like what they're showing off in those trailers.
Sam, come on. You can't tell me that you watched the gameplay footage from E3 and thought,
That's exactly what I thought. That sums up my feelings very well with a single noise. That's some other game. That's not Deus Ex. That's something else that they're making.
Oh,
Sam is a purist, sir.
Sam.
They're making a different game. They should just retitle it something else.
I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
You'll see. You'll see when it comes out. I'm telling you. Go back to the roots. That's all they have to do.
No,
First game was perfect.
The past stays in the past.
I beg to disagree. Anyway, so that's about Enrique's week, right? Anything else?
No, that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. And let's move on to Ryan. What have you been playing this week?
I've actually still been on a DayZ kick. I really like 0.58. It's a good patch. I did buy Trine and Trine 2, which I've never played. I don't really know anything about them, but they were cheap. So those were on the schedule to be played, but I never did get to them.
I've heard really good things, but I haven't actually played them much myself either. I played the first one a little bit. Yeah. I've heard they're really good co-op experience.
Yeah, they are. Especially Trine 2. Trine 2 is a lot of fun. Haven't played the third one yet.
Cool. Well, I'll have to play them. I'll probably play later today, but just been on a huge DayZ kick, stuck in some Rocket League there, and that's about it. It's been a pretty tame week for me in terms of games.
Cool, man. All right, Chris, what have you been playing?
Aside from the usual suspects, Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone, I've been playing State of Decay, the original one, not the Year One edition. And I talk about that game a little bit on the video for Project Zomboid. Mm-hmm. And I find out of the two, State of Decay is the more enjoyable experience because it's just sandboxy enough to give you the space to do what you want, go on supply runs and clear out houses and stuff. But it also has a story, which is not that good, but it's good enough to help propel things forward a little bit.
Yeah, some progression, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as zombie games go, this game comes closest to the Walking Dead experience. Not the Telltale game, but the show and the comic.
Okay. I thought you were talking about like the other Walking Dead game.
No.
The one where he plays Daryl Dixon.
Oh. No. Now I'm talking about the actual show. You amass a couple of survivors, and you go on supply runs. You make your base a bit better. You can basically set up shop everywhere, which is cool. If you basically plundered an entire town for all it's worth, you can just pack shit up and go somewhere else to a different town and do the same thing all over again. And it's a very enjoyable experience. It's quite buggy. The driving is not all that great, but the atmosphere is very well done. So I really enjoyed playing that game, and I should I would recommend it.
Cool. Well, all right. Here, favorite zombie games. Let's just go round table, I guess. I gotta go with Dead Rising.
Oh, that's a good one.
What?
I like Dead Rising because it gets the wackiness in there.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Dead Island.
Dead Island's all right. It's not bad, but it's not great either.
I would have to say it's a tie between Dead Rising and Resident Evil 4.
Oh, I didn't even think about Resident Evil 4. Oh man, that slots upward in my list.
I think it's just because the way the game was presented in terms of like the unlockables, the way the zombies were kind of brought into you, the whole aesthetic of the game was fucking amazing.
Yeah, they could have been anything. It's not necessarily a zombie game to me.
Yeah,
when I think of zombie games. Everything about that game is amazing. It doesn't even need to be it doesn't need to lean on the zombie thing at all because it has enough on its own.
Yeah, Resident Evil, back when it's still pretty great, like people were still clamoring for every new iteration, and now it's just sort of fizzled out, I guess. 4 was really good, but it's been so long since I last played that game. The only thing I can really remember is the shopkeeper.
What are you buying?
What are you buying?
No, dude.
We've got something special for you.
Best thing about that game was the dog. That you can find that dog within like 2 minutes of starting the game out. If you shoot the trap its foot it's caught in, it'll come back and save you a few times.
I want to say DayZ, but that's not a zombie game right now. There's no zombies in it.
No, it's not. See, that's what I thought, because I like the concept of it as a survival game, but it's not a zombie game because they're kind of like an afterthought in the game.
Yeah, you put zombies in DayZ, it'll be my favorite zombie game, but it doesn't have zombies, so I'm going to say, I think Left 4 Dead.
Ooh,
that's a good choice.
One or two?
2. It has to be 2. Because 2 gives you everything 1 had plus more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say 2 by a little bit.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one.
There's a lot of nostalgia. For me in Left 4 Dead 1, but yeah, it's just such a game. It's so smooth. It feels like a mix between like a zombie game and something like Counter-Strike. Like everything's just so light and fluid.
We should all play Left 4 Dead 2 on Realism.
Yeah. We need to pick a date for that. That seems like a good time.
Yeah, and there's so many mods and stuff for it. It's just great.
Yeah.
Custom maps. It's a fantastic game. I love Left 4 Dead.
Cool. All right. Well, there you go.
Zombie
now
games.
We know. Yeah, now we got the zombie game pantheon lined up. Anything else, Chris?
No, that was basically it.
All right. As for me, most of this week went to the Phantom Pain.
Oh yes.
I heard that game's fantastic. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, it's exactly as good as you read that it is.
Have you played Ground Zero?
No, I haven't played any other Metal Gear games except for the very first one. I played the first one on the original PlayStation. That was it.
Do you think that affects the enjoyment you get out of this game, or are you still able to just kind of pick it up and still love it?
I like it just fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
at no point you're confused about the story?
I don't think so. The story seems to be fairly self-contained, or at least, I mean, I did go to a website and just read the timeline real quick, just to kind of get a sense of what was going on.
Right.
Where does this fall in terms of like the timeline for the games?
I think it's before Metal Gear 1.
Yeah, I think that's right. But like I said, I don't know the series, but the way I understand it is it's before Metal Gear 1. So in a way, nothing is super duper crazy. And like the one thing that I went to look up in this game that I thought was confusing, I wanted to know more about, is apparently new in this game. So after that, I wasn't even really that worried about it. But normally I wouldn't even take the time to do that, right? But something about the way this game is made or directed, like the cinematography is fantastic.
Nice.
It just feels like somebody, you know, really, or Hideo Kojima, I guess specifically, like really put time into it, and it makes you want to read up on some of the extra stuff just to fully appreciate this thing that he created.
I've been told that it's the very best game for stealing 80s mixtapes.
It is the number one 80s mixtape stealing simulator on the market right now. That's 100% true. The mixtapes are great, man.
Yeah, I heard you can outfit your helicopter with that. So if you call in a helicopter, it will play Rebel Yell, so you can actually hear it before you see it.
It'll play whatever you want, man. It'll play Kids in America. You want that?
That's great.
Yeah, it's good, man. Everything you read about is good. Just to go, I guess, a little bit past what you would sort of read, because all that stuff they say is amazing is absolutely right. But to draw attention to just a few other small things, the missions and the side missions are split, and the missions are graded on a scoring system. That real awesome granular, I consider it like a Japanese style scoring system where you get S ranks.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And points for all kinds of different actions and stuff. But then you have the side missions where you can just do whatever you want. There's no scoring system. So it relieves that sort of weariness you get from playing stealth games where you always need to go slow and plan and calculate, with just letting you blow some shit up. So it changes the pacing that way. I thought that was really smart, and I like that a lot. The game is just cool, man. I mean, just overall.
Man, I kind of want to play it.
You wouldn't be bad. I mean, you know, I'm not the only one sitting here saying it's great. Like, I guess the whole internet would probably agree.
Yeah, it's universal praise for the most part, yeah.
It's like The Witcher set in the 80s.
That would be, man, I wish that The Witcher was more like Metal Gear. Because whereas I wore out on The Witcher, I haven't worn out on Metal Gear yet. And I think it's the fact that it's broke into chunks, and there's a scoring system, and there's just so much to do in that game. It's so very nuanced and realized, and the attention to detail is just staggering. It's stuff like, you know, like if you go into a bathroom and play the tape of the soldier pooping in the bathroom, like other people won't inspect the toilet.
So it is. So aside from it being pretty cool, it's also batshit insane.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. It's just the detail is what makes it insane. Like, there's nothing. I guess you could say that's weird, but it's not super duper weird. Like, it sort of makes sense.
I heard developer stories of like specific people on the team whose entire job was to kind of like think of ways, or I guess think of like counterattacks or counteractions for everything in the game, and to come up with like responses to that.
Yeah, so that when you do something, the game speaks back. Absolutely. There's so much of that in there. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts, man. It's fine, granular detail to the extreme. And I read stuff online of people doing stuff that I never would have thought to do, and it works.
So the $1,000 question here, contender for Game of the Year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I think that's an easy contender, because there's nothing else that's come out like it this year. And it's fresh, and it's awesome, and it's great.
Okay, then.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the only game I've been playing this week.
Seems like that's the only game you needed this week.
Yeah, and maybe next week too. I don't know, but I like it a whole heap.
Okay, then.
So I guess that wraps that part up. You guys want to move on into some topics?
I mentioned I was playing Deus Ex Human Revolution, and one of the things that I noticed about the game was how, I guess, offbeat the boss battles felt. I don't know if you guys felt this when you were playing it, but it felt like I was playing two different games, where when you're playing the main story, you have all this player agency you can do in terms of how you approach each situation, whether you're hacking, talking your way out of stuff, being stealthy, or just going like balls to the wall, running and gunning. And it's really cool because, you know, like my character is kind of trying to play a very smooth talking kind of stealth guy. And out of nowhere, I get thrown into like these really abrupt boss battles where there's only one way to face them, and no matter what you do, it kind of invalidates your whole progress up to the point.
Especially that first one.
Yeah. And it got me thinking to the whole concept of boss battles and like how many games, they kind of use it as an arbitrary, I guess, checkpoint for you. It's like, hey, let's see how far you've progressed so far. Can you beat this boss? If not, go back and, get some more gear and stuff. And I mean, I'm kind of curious what you guys' thoughts are on that. Like, do you think boss battles are necessary in games?
Not necessary. I still enjoy them though.
Well, if it's a heavy narrative experience, it's usually the main antagonist that you find at the end. So it's a nice crescendo to everything that happened before that point. But necessary? I guess it really depends on the game and how it's implemented. For example, like you said, Deus Ex Human Revolution is a bit dissonant in the way that it approaches boss battles, but it's especially dissonant if you've been playing a sneaky character up till that point.
Right.
And if you're not playing the director's cut, because apparently the director's cut changes a lot of the boss battles around so you can do it stealthily.
I was, and it doesn't really change that much.
Oh, okay, because I haven't played the director's cut.
You're still forced into like those really awkward boss battles. It gives you like a little bit variation how you can tackle them, but it's still you versus the bullet sponge. There's no talking your way out of a boss fight. There's no avoiding it entirely. It's still very much you have to do this.
Yeah. Well, luckily they are changing that in the new one, so that's good.
I think you need boss battles. I mean, I think they're important as a sort of, not as a gate, but as like a culmination, because the bosses that you generally fight are narrative characters. They are a part of the story as bad guys. And if they were just some dude, that would be not great, because you are yourself sort of superpowered compared to the rest of the world. And the other characters that are at your level above the riffraff should also have a certain amount of superpowers to them too.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it's not only that, a lot of boss battles, especially earlier in the game, are sort of tests. Like, have you been paying attention to the mechanics up to this point?
Yeah.
And I quite like that.
Absolutely, man. And the bigger the better. It breaks the pacing for one, which is good. So you're doing something different instead of keeping it samey. It's a checkpoint so that, like you said, if your gear is good enough, if you have a good enough handle on the mechanics. It's an extra challenge that doesn't take as much space as a single level. So they have some room to sort of break the mold there and do something interesting with specific boss mechanics, which is the number one place to showcase unique mechanics.
Yeah, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Enrique, but I think what you mean is that a lot of boss battles aren't really done all that well. They usually turn into bullet sponges.
Yeah, that could actually be a better way to word it.
Yeah, I mean, look at a game like Guild Wars 2. Those boss battles are, as hard as they tried to make them not be that way, they are just another bullet sponge. So, I mean, that's...
Destiny is especially guilty of this as well, by the way.
Yeah, it's like, once you figure out... I mean, like, the good boss battles are going to be the boss is going to do some big attack that is... It's like more than just standing there and you get damaged, like maybe they'll do an animation or something, but that's about as advanced as they get. And it's like all bosses pretty much fall into that same thing. And I was playing the final boss battle in Borderlands 2, and it's like, as long as you kind of stand in the right spot, you're pretty good. And I don't know, I just feel like boss battles, I can't get away from that. Even the good ones are still trapped in that you're limited by size or whatever it is,
Well, what you want.
What's an example of a really good boss battle you've had?
I feel like the best boss battles I've had are like in turn-based RPGs where I'm not expecting all these crazy mechanics.
Really?
Yeah. What comes to mind is Golden Sun, because there was a lot of intricacy to the end of the game. It was so long since I played that game. The end of the game where you're fighting some dragon or something. I remember I had a specific formula that I was able to come up with by like dialing in all my my character skills and the rotation they use the skills in and like all this stuff. And I found that way more fun than just having to figure out, oh, don't stand here or dodge when he does this animation, I guess it feels like since they took out the things that are trying to make it better, I guess, I don't know if that's the phrasing I want to use, but they took that stuff out and all of a sudden I wasn't missing it either.
I thought Dark Souls had great bosses just overall.
Yeah, the first Dark Souls had a really good variety of them too.
And they did all kinds of cool stuff, and they were huge and gigantic and fun to fight. I guess if you boiled it all the way down, it is just learn the patterns and get out of the way. But something about them felt particularly unique. But now that you mention it, that's basically what you did for all the regular dudes too, was just learn the patterns and get out of the way.
Right. Yeah, but I think with a game like Dark Souls, there's a lot of like cinematic and artistry that goes into like the presentation of the boss fight. That's why it's so fun.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I was really disappointed with Dark Souls 2, because I felt with Dark Souls 2 there was way less variety in bosses, because it felt like every boss you fought in Dark Souls 2 was just a giant guy in armor, and that was it.
What about Bloodborne?
Bloodborne was actually fun because, again, you had that really big variety in a lot of the boss battles.
I think Zelda has always had phenomenal boss battles because you gain the new item and you learn the new mechanic and you use it in an interesting way to fight the boss of the dungeon.
Yeah.
That's really well done.
Another example of boss battles that have been done right Shadow of the Colossus.
That whole game was just boss battle after boss battle.
Yeah, that game is Boss Battles, the video game.
Yeah. And every boss battle was very interesting in its own way.
Absolutely agree with that.
Like, the boss battles felt very organic in that, because even though there was a set pattern to beating them in terms of, like, find the weak spot, stab the weak spot, that's it. I think, like, the movements of the creatures definitely lended itself to make that, not seem as repetitive.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons, like, I really like the Monster Hunter series, because, I mean, that game is essentially just a boss battle after boss battle, and even though you're fighting the same thing over and over again to farm for a specific, like, drop it might give you, each fight feels so different because their movements and the way they're chained together, it makes the creature feel a lot more organic.
Do you think that we're seeing less boss battles these days? When you brought up that question in particular, I was starting to think over. I was like, well, okay, what's a good boss battle? And I'm starting to think that I haven't really seen as many recently.
I think they've kind of faded out of, or they've turned into something else, was what I'll say. So instead of having, you play the game through this section of the game and then you get to this giant boss at the end, I think we're seeing different forms of that same boss idea. So,
right.
An example could be like in Left 4 Dead, we talked about earlier, when the Horde comes, that's a boss, but it's not a single guy,
right,
that
Yeah.
you have to learn his patterns and that kind of thing.
It's like a more organic difficulty spike.
Or like in another narrative game or something like that. The boss is just going to be the hard part. Not necessarily one literal boss. It's just going to be the part that tests your skill to be like, yeah, okay, you can move on. You've mastered these mechanics enough to move on to the next part of the game.
Or just when it gives you a feeling that the stakes have been raised.
Yeah.
But especially in Telltale games where you might lose a character that you've grown to know and love. That could be considered a boss battle, although that might be a bit too esoteric. I might be stretching it a bit there, but you know what I mean, right?
That's a really good point, though, Sam, because I did notice that when I asked that question, all of our examples were from games from the last generation, from like 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's a cynical part of me that wants to say, without any credible evidence, that if you're making a video game right now in 2015, why spend the resources on a unique encounter that only takes place once? And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. But
because those are usually the things that stick.
yeah, but I don't think to an accountant that sticks. And like, I know that's real jaded and real cynical, but I feel that way overall at large about the gaming industry these days. And obviously I can't prove that, but
no, it makes sense, because I was going to say games like, the Arkham series, but at the same time, I think the games that we do see nowadays that have boss battles, it's not so much that you're fighting a unique encounter. You're basically just fighting a souped up, like, normal minion that you've already encountered.
because I think at their core, like, that's what boss battles should be. They should be unique encounters and like a space where the game designer can like roam free and do some weird shit for 5 minutes, like if they want to,
Right.
twist the mechanics, use them in new and interesting ways. And I think that creativity is just sort of on a downward turn a little bit. But
I agree.
You don't think that the creativity's been kind of spread out more as the whole game rather than just focused on the boss battle?
I guess that could be true, but they want to, they want to reuse assets. They want to make sure that the player sees everything, and they want to have the mechanics that the people already know extended just a little bit for a boss battle. Or actually, maybe they just think that they need a boss battle here. It's like, this is the way this should be. Let's throw a boss battle in. It just feels, I don't know, bad in a way.
At which point it doesn't really, it's not really a creative thing if you're just doing it because you feel like you have to.
Yeah, like by the books, right? Like every 8 sub-levels, there's going to be a mini boss, and every 40 sub-levels, there's going to be a major boss. And this is our roadmap, so rock on.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about The Witcher 3 then? Because the different Witcher contracts will make you fight against unique versions of certain monsters, and they have sort of unique mechanics or require a different approach.
Yeah, I thought if you wanted to consider those boss battles, those were pretty cool. Because fighting the Griffin was a lot of fun. I think that might have been the only like actual boss battle I went through, except for some wizard guy who kept making dogs. But like, I don't know what that was about. But other than that, I think that they did it great. I think I wouldn't hesitate to say that. But still, it's not over the top or it's not out of control. It's just the same things that you already had and just a big monster, which I guess everything is.
You still see that in MMOs, though, where there's a lot of time and effort that goes into designing the boss encounter. So, like, that's actually really cool and refreshing to see. But, I don't know, like, outside of that specific little genre, you don't really see that much care and effort given to boss battles. Oh, man, like, speaking of, Phantom Pain, I'm remembering, like, Metal Gear series. series was phenomenal for having those kind of like unique boss battles.
That one that I played, the first one on the PlayStation, had amazing boss battles. Like Psycho Manus, I would put on a pedestal of game design.
Was it if you played Castlevania or whatever like that? You know, it would read your memory card. I mean, and the whole concept of beating it, you actually had to unplug your controller and replug it in. I mean, like, who thinks of that as for a boss battle?
Yeah, because but I mean, it's story motivated. Like, he's telepathic, right? So like, he knows what you're doing unless you plug your controller into the player 2 port. Like, what? Like, that kind of stuff is amazing.
Oh, it does require a bit more effort than you're used to when playing video games, even though it's just, unplugging and replugging the controller.
Yeah.
Do you think we've gotten lazy though? Like, do you think if you took a gamer from this era and you put him to fight a like Psycho Manus style boss without any hints, he'd be able to figure it out?
I don't know. Maybe. I think that you would just... You're talking about these people don't have guides, right? Like, we're still pre-internet.
I don't want to sound like I'm generalizing, but I feel like back then, a lot of those boss battles, there was a lot of context within the game that kind of led you to come up with like, oh, this is how you beat this guy. Okay, let's go. Case in point, the Mega Man series, they're very methodical, but you kind of get into this habit of, it's like a rock, paper, scissors game, like, okay, man, once I beat this boss, I'll get the ability that'll let me beat, counter this boss, like, and things like that. And when you get to the boss battles now, it almost feels like everything's like handed to you, where if even there's like some kind of unique mechanic for the boss battle, you're given a really quick tutorial, like, oh, by the way, this is how you beat the boss. Go have at it.
Yeah, this is a larger discussion, but I think that at that time you were closer to games that had unique content as a normal part of that game. Like in Yoshi's Island, there were these puffball enemies that only showed up in two levels. In Mario, you had Kuribo Shu, which was one level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
It took less to actually make video games, so there was more of a prevalence of making these unique one-off things. Now, like, the expenditure to make a video game encouraged them to make as few of those as possible. And I think that boss battles have gotten caught up in that snowball, and that they also naturally suffer as a result, because that's what a good boss battle is. I mean, that's a larger thing, but if you want to talk about a trend that I think I've seen in video games, I feel like I've watched that happen in front of my eyes.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about, like, where a lot of the time, especially now, it feels like the boss you're fighting, it's not its own unique entity. Like, you're just fighting a carbon copy of your previous enemies that have just been giving, extra health and does a little bit more damage.
And it's bigger or whatever. Yeah. But what you're doing is basically the same. Because to put in all those triggers that you would need to like activate actions or something different, just a new way of interacting with the game would require a level of effort.
Yeah. And it's funny because you don't see any more, like Metal Gears or Shadow of the Colossus style boss battles. You don't see, encounters that are so unique.
You don't always need to have those encounters to have a satisfying experience.
You don't need to, but I mean, it does feel like a lot of those experiences have just kind of been generalized to where you can find the sweet spot and just cheat, shoot the boss until he dies.
Or the build-up is just a bit different.
You know what? I think the Pokemon games had really cool boss battles because...
Well, like the gym leaders?
Yeah, like the gym leaders and your... What was he called? Like your arch rival or whatever? The guy who follows you around and you name him like Dick Butt. Yeah. So each one of those, every single gym leader you went to, you had to prepare like your stats pretty much. So if you're going to go fight, I don't know, Brock, you're not going to use Pikachu as your main dude, And so those are boss battles that you have to prepare for every single time you fight them, and then they throw you like the surprise boss battles with your rival, and it's
or Team Rocket popping up everywhere.
And it never.
God, no, the rival ones were the worst ones because those would just pop up like when you were least expecting it.
Yeah, and so and you would lose. I remember there were so many times where I lost in Pokemon. Granted, I was 7 years old, but I lost so many times, and those battles never really came down to dodge when this thing. When he does this thing, or use this skill when he uses this thing. They were all very unique, I felt like. And we don't really see those anymore. At least I feel like we don't.
It just seems like the focus is on completely different things in development now. Like more focus on world building and stuff like voice acting, and less on traditional boss battles.
You guys played the old Final Fantasies, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while, but...
Do you remember which... God, I can't remember. Oh, man, it's hurting. But do you remember which one it was where... I think it was after you left, like, a cave instance. There was a random chance that, like, a war mech boss would spawn.
Okay, well, my numbers are going to be weird, but that was probably 4 or 6. I don't know how you number them anymore. That was that one.
And it would suck because, immediately at the end of this instance, so you're worn out, you're exhausted supplies, you're just thankful that you're at the exit, and then you have to worry about this, like, God, I really hope this thing doesn't spawn because it'll more than likely kick your ass if it does.
Yeah, it's like the best boss battles are the ones that force you to think on your feet with the stuff you've learned, rather than be like, hey, this boss is coming, be ready, like, make sure you save, make sure you go get all your health potions, get the best weapon, I think the best ones are the ones that are out of nowhere, like in Pokemon with your rival.
That is true.
You gotta have that element of danger to it. It's just gotta be something different, I think. I think that's the key to a good boss battle.
And I think that's why we all defaulted back to boss battles from a long time ago when we were thinking of our favorites, because it's like playing through the end of Borderlands 2, I was like, oh, well, that was a cool boss battle I fought, but then I was like, well, I remember playing, Star Ocean on PS2, and those boss battles were pretty cool. And I think I like those better than Borderlands. But then I kept going back further and further to the point in, Golden Sun and Pokemon where that was like where I learned the basic boss battle mechanics. And that was like new to me at that time. So I'm like, yeah, those were the best ones I ever fought because that's where I actually discovered something. And then I've just been repeating that over and over.
I still think one of my favorite ones was... It's probably a tie between the first time you fight Sin in Final Fantasy X or the fight with the Axum Rangers in Super Mario RPG. Because both those boss battles have like this timed element to them where in Final Fantasy X, when you're fighting Sin, you have to beat him within a set number of turns before he does the ultimate attack that one-shots you. And with the Axum Rangers in Super Mario RPG, it's the same concept where like, you're fighting the 5 Axum Rangers and every certain number of turns, they do like this massive attack that hits your entire party. So it almost becomes like a battle of attrition where you have to think on your feet how to best, mitigate damage versus maximizing it in order to beat them by a certain time.
That's something that a lot of World of Warcraft raid bosses do.
Yeah, with the rage timers and stuff.
I think that's where you still get boss design these days. Enrique said that like 10 minutes ago, but he's absolutely right. The best boss design right now is taking place in MMOs.
Yeah, because those games are all about the boss battles. At least the end game is.
Man, it's making me want to go back and play all these games with really good boss battles.
Yeah, just so you can kind of experience that again.
I can take them or leave them, to be honest.
I really want to play Zone of the Enders again.
Play what? I didn't hear.
Zone of the Enders. It was like another Kojima game. It was like but it was a mech one.
Oh yeah, for the Xbox, right?
Yeah, it was for Xbox and PlayStation. Like they came out with like the HD remake, but Zone of the Enders second runner probably had really unique boss battles because you're fighting like these specialized mechs, which were really cool. Like one of them, for example, was she had a force field, so you could never really get near her. The only way you could actually do damage was you had to fly to the edge of the screen and like rip out these giant iron beams from the wall and kind of impale her, so you could actually get a couple hits in. And I think my favorite boss level was in the second one, where you're basically fighting this giant war on Mars. And it's like, it's an army of, your side versus an army of their side. And it's really cool because you see like this giant map on the edge of the screen where you see like the troops kind of fighting against each other and you see how far you're pushing into their territory. And the boss battle is a mix between taking out their army and answering distress calls and making sure that you don't take too many losses. And it was such a cool concept.
Back to something Chris said earlier, calling boss battles kind of a crescendo. If we never had an update in boss battles again, I would still want boss battles because it feels like that crescendo, like at the end of a play when everyone bows, it just feels like that finishing touch rather than I kind of compare it to like theater ending and a stand-up comedian ending. Comedians, they're just like, okay, see ya, that was my last joke. I feel like that's what games would be without it.
Yeah, but like, even comedians, like they leave on a high note.
Yeah, they do if they're good.
But if the boss battle is the antagonist that you've been hunting for the entire game, by the point that you reach him, you just want him to die, and that in of itself is pretty satisfying most of the time, because it is the conclusion to the entire story.
Yeah.
You need something there.
Yeah, I just like it. I like the bombasticness of it, I suppose.
So, I guess going back to the original question, I'd almost say that just after everything we've talked about, I think boss battles are a necessity because I feel like you need to have that giant crescendo.
That's not to say that those can't be bad because the end of Guild Wars 2, the original storyline with Zaitan sucked. But it still needed to be there because you gotta go out with a bang, even if it's a little bang.
I saw a thread on Reddit, and give credit where it is due. I actually should have written down the username, but I forgot. But this person, he posed that gaming is going through a sort of golden age revival thing now, where we get a lot of spiritual successors. Like he names ukulele as one, which is a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. Wasteland 2 is back now with a proper sequel. Of course, a couple of years ago, BioShock, which was a spiritual successor to System Shock. And do you think that there's any merit to this? Are we sort of harkening back to the days of yore and building on, it's not really derivative, but building on the basics of a couple of very, very big games?
Nope. I think it's a sign that we're running out of ideas.
Really?
Yep. I don't know. If you speak to me of a golden age in gaming, I think of like a renaissance. I think of innovation. I think of, new mechanics, new concepts, new genres. And we're not seeing any of that. We're just seeing people, like, fuck, what do we do now? Hey, Shenmue was popular. Let's bring it back. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's lazy because not to, speak ill of the work that goes into them, because I know that it does take a lot of time and effort to create these titles, but I feel there is a lot less effort involved in saying, hey, we should remake this game, than there is to sit down and come up with like the next big thing.
I just think it's easy, and maybe at a time where like it is so hard to make a video game, I guess in theory it's easier to just pull something that works. Or it's also the fact that maybe there hasn't been one of those games in enough span of time that people want another one. And in that case, that's not so bad, but it's still a little boring.
I feel like it's people or, companies. I mean, of course there is the financial gain like aspect of it, but it's also, hey, over the years we've come up with these new technologies and new mechanics and all these different ways of thinking about making a game. Wouldn't it be cool if we went back and applied it to this franchise that everyone loves?
Yeah, I don't think that is lazy.
No,
I just see that as an opportunity for the original creator to do what he wants to do with the franchise that he created.
Yeah, but a lot of time it's not the original creator that's even involved in that. It's a brand new company saying, "Hey, we should do what this guy did,
but better."
Yeah, that's arguable.
Yeah, I mean, like imagine if you were in charge of creating a game and you were thinking to yourself, "I could create something new with all these new things we have," or I can apply it to, like I said, everyone's favorite title. Like, it's still, I don't know. I guess I failed to see the lazy part in it because you're still applying these new things. All you're taking is old characters. And I guess the character development part isn't as much there as it would be if you were creating a new game. But you're still putting in that amount of effort.
Yeah. I mean, I guess lazy was kind of a bit of a misnomer because I don't think it's a correct generalization. But I guess where I'm coming from is that I think people that call this, just rehashing old ideas as the golden age of gaming are just looking at it through kind of a rose-tinted glasses. They're romanticizing the idea of what these games were as opposed to looking forward to what we could be doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think you should be resting on something old and saying it's a golden age, but at the same time, I don't hate it either.
Yeah.
Well, I think it works in cycles. Like let's look at like maybe specifically like the isometric turn-based RPG, like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights came out and they were huge and everybody loved them. And then we spent a bunch of years not making them or maybe iterating on concepts or something. And then now we have a ton of them again. So I don't know if there's something in the in-between time, like they keep trying different things that don't work. So they go back to what they know works. And that just takes a span of years, or the fact that people are out there, they liked those games and they had nowhere to go. There was no harbor for them to go to, to get that game experience that they wanted to have more of. So why not pull they pull the people, some of those people from those teams are still around and they have in a few cases made a brand new game, but just based on those same design concepts.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe it's because people are a bit cynical when it comes to the gaming industry and they sort of long to go back to a time when they were kids and playing Mario for the first time. That feeling of playing that game for the first time that made such a big impression on you. Maybe people will want something like that again. And that's why old ideas get revived so easily.
I was going to say, you mentioned Mario. I think that's a show of a franchise that does that kind of thing correctly, because it's a franchise everybody loves and you reminisce for the old games, but they're constantly putting out new versions of games that there's at least something a little bit innovative about them. So
there is, but that also, at least to me, it brings up it's kind of sore spot with Nintendo, where Nintendo's a company that revitalizing is their bread and butter. And that's cool because, like you said, we do get these old classics that are reimagined, revitalized, and that's awesome. But they're kind of like the bad side of the coin where like that's their one trick pony. They're going to come out with the Zelda. Hey, let's come out with the next Mario Kart. Hey, let's come out with the next,
but Mario. If they're introducing enough new mechanics to it and new interesting things,
Well, there's not enough of a gap there. You never have time to want to play another 2D platformer because there's another 2D platformer. If I was me playing Castlevania on my DS or Metroid and I'm like, man, Metroidvania games are pretty fun, I'd like to play another one, and this was me in 2008, it would be like 4 years or 5 years before there's another one. Maybe I could play Shadow Complex, but like outside of that, like there's just not those games out there. Right now, I'd imagine today, if you're a person who loves RTS games, you're like, what happened to all the RTS games?
Yeah.
It's MOBA now.
Well, I guess it's MOBA now, but if that's what you like and you're not being serviced, somebody will come along to fill the void. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
Generally speaking, with all products and services, because that's how the market works.
And Enrique, I think what you just said is a bit of a misnomer. Nintendo isn't revitalizing stuff. It's just they never stopped making that game. Because they're still making Mario games, and they're doing it over and over and over again. And innovating, they are innovating, but it's still the same game with a new coat of paint on it.
Like there's only so many ways you can make Mario jump.
Yeah, and there's no spiritual successor there because it's all Mario.
Yeah, I wouldn't lump that into this sort of particular category. Yeah. Because I think you got to have that space in between, and that it is such a zeitgeist, and people thinking it's a golden age because where there was nothing, now there is something.
I think Nintendo is sort of giving up on that sort of thing because they just released Mario Maker. It's like, all right, well, you like the Mario games of old? Here, go make them yourself.
But as far as a revival, I mean, in order for you to revive something, it has to die for a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you were in these undersatisfied markets, so you probably do think it's a golden age for revival games.
That's true.
Like if you liked turn-based isometric RPGs, like right now you are happier than you've ever been in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You got Pillars of Eternity and Wasteland and Shadowrun and the one that starts with a D that I can't think of.
Diablo.
Divinity. Oh, and Diablo, sure, why not?
Because that franchise was dead for what, 15 years?
Yeah.
Until they released
Diablo was
Reaper
gone
Souls.
for a while.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people, then it is a golden age of revival.
I think it's a golden age, full stop. Actually, I've never been so happy with video games as I am today. And that's not to say that I'm not very cynical and sort of disenfranchised with the industry as a whole. But when it comes to video games that I like to play, most of them have been released in the past 4 years.
Yeah,
that's you.
Yeah, obviously that's my opinion.
I can think of a lot of games that I would like to see updated.
Okay, such as?
I think that we've learned a lot. I think that every year that goes by, video games as a whole learn something new about designing games and like quality of life stuff and user interface and all that kind of thing. And you take those lessons and then apply them to something from the past, and you come out with normally a pretty good product.
So what would you like to see revitalized?
I can't think of a genre that I'm not serviced in right now. All the games that I would like and that I would say I wanted to come back are being absolutely fulfilled.
FMV point and clicks.
I mean, I would want a new Tenchu game, but that's not, there's plenty of sort of games like that out there for me to be able to play. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to see Earth Defense Force come back.
I love that title.
I think that like Kojima's not doing anything right now. I think he should take the reins of the Earth Defense Force franchise, and you'd have something incredible. But even that's not necessarily a revival. I thought we were going to get Phantom Dust, but apparently that's not a thing anymore. There's just there's unique concepts all the way back that we haven't seen. You know what? I would like to see a couch competitive puzzle game. How about that? That's a genre I'd like to see revived.
But there's one problem with that. I'd have to have people over.
Well, yeah, they're generally 2-player games, but I mean, there's probably a reason why we haven't seen a good puzzle game in a really long time, right?
Yeah.
Because all that stuff moved to match 3 in mobile, and they lost the essence of what a puzzle game should be. Thanks, Bejeweled.
What, adventure games? You mean adventure games like
Broken Sword, like Monkey Island, like those old...
Well, isn't that the point and click thing?
Yeah, the good point and click adventure games.
Well, Telltale is raking in the big dollars doing just that. And I wouldn't really say that those games are unpopular by any extent.
I wouldn't really call those adventure games, though.
I think what you're missing is not the genre, but the concepts.
Right.
They're still like that genre has come back full force, but the concepts of those games are very different. They're nowhere near the wackiness and the sort of strange compellingness, the funniness, just overall.
Yeah, like Day of the Tentacle.
Well, you obviously have not played Tales from the Borderlands, sir.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing, though. Like, because the thing that I liked about those old adventure games were the puzzles and creativity that went into them. Because I'm not saying the Telltale games aren't good, but they're not adventure games. They're just like interactive stories.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you're completely correct. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, like when I say adventure games, I'm talking about like the old school, like puzzle, get creative and zany and combine a biscuit cutter with a rubber tree to make a cork to, patch up
click
a
stuff
hole
on
in a
other
ship
stuff.
kind of thing.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
So in that stead, you're right. There haven't been many. I mean, they tried to revive the Sam & Max franchise, and they made a bunch of games in that not too long ago. But then again, my span of time is off. That could be like 5 years ago.
The last titles that I played like that were, I guess, the aesthetic remake or reboot of, what do you call it, the Monkey Island and
Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango, like HD.
Oh, I still need to play that.
Yeah, that's definitely an underserviced one. But I think that we'll get to those too. Like, if the people are there that want to play those, they'll make those.
Hey, if we can revive Shenmue, then we can revive pretty much anything.
And if you're right that the overall industry is creatively bankrupt, then what better time to see a revival of old concepts? And in that situation, if there's more of them, then you sort of reach the golden age thing. So the problem becomes the solution in a backwards way for that particular
Man, see,
issue.
I really want to, now that you mentioned it, I want to see a Jade Empire come back.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'd play Jade Empire.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like, I mean, you haven't seen like a good old martial arts RPG that's not Age of Wushu.
Huh.
Well, you haven't seen that action RPG blended with your more traditional kind of thing. You could say that The Witcher came close outside of theme, obviously, but mechanically, you could say that that's almost there.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want it to sound like I'm coming off negativity because I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying the current atmosphere that we have of gaming, but I wouldn't consider it a golden age because I don't think there's been anything groundbreaking to make it a golden age.
Right.
It's not like when they first decided to move from 8-bit to 16-bit, that was a golden age because then you had that big exodus of graphics that kind of got upgraded. And with that, they decided, they realized, hey, we can add more color palette. Hey, we can add, different variation enemies. Hey, we can, change the landscape, the setting. Like that, for me, that's what embodies the golden age. And I think maybe we'll see it if things like the VR headsets take off, like either the Morpheus or the Vive or like the Oculus Rift. I think if those become like a household items, then we'll see a golden age where suddenly we see a huge paradigm shift in the way that we have like games presented to us.
Yeah, I disagree with that. To me, this is the best time to be a gamer ever. And that's because I really, really, really like open world games. And for the first time ever in my tenure as a gamer, I guess, I am able to explore fully realized worlds that I can just dick around in until the cows come home. I mean, that to me is the most amazing thing I've seen in gaming up to this point.
But see, I think that ties back to what Sam said. It's more subjective because it's not that
obviously,
there's an overall like golden age. It's just that you just happen to hit the trend like reset that appeals to you. And who knows, maybe 3 years from now we'll get into like the RTS, and then we'll have RTS players saying this is the best time to be a gamer.
I think I'm in the same boat as Chris. Like I'm a big fan of open world games that pretty much give you free reign. And but I also do think it's because my tastes and gaming are just kind of lining up, and so it's a great climate for us.
It's just I like the cutting edge, right? I mean, never before has the music been as good in video games as now, as wild and as creative as it is now. Never before have games looked as good as now. And of course, that is a subjective thing, but to me, that makes today a golden age.
Isn't every age a golden age when you're in it?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like saying like the present's the best time to be a gamer.
Yeah,
which is true.
Yeah,
Because you have access to the past. You always have the past, so the present is always the best.
Yeah, but I mean, I have access to Guild Wars 1, which is like one of my favorite games, but it's not like it was.
Yeah, because you're used to different systems now. You're used to playing, well, quote unquote, more evolved versions of that game.
Nobody's learning in that game anymore. Everyone who's there is like a grizzled Guild Wars 1 player. There's nobody new. I don't want to say nothing is exciting, but nothing is there's nothing spontaneous that you didn't expect or anything like that. So I mean, you do have access to the past, but it's not as good as it was when it was the present. The past couple segments, I've noticed we've been going back a lot to the games that we played in the past, and they've just been making us reminiscent of some of the older titles. And I want to know what your guys' favorite games are from in the past. Let's say before you were 15, so your childhood. What are your top 3 favorite games? And I'll go after you guys go, but let's start with, I don't know, any of you guys want to go first? Okay, I'll roll a die. Enrique, what are your top favorite? What not even necessarily your favorite, but what just kind of pops into your head is the
Yeah, let's not number them. I think the pressure from numbering them is too much. Okay. Let's just say 3 games we liked from when we were a kid.
Oh man. Okay. I'm about to go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I think it was like one of the first times I really got into a fighting game, and it was so accessible.
Not the arcade one?
Yeah.
Huh.
I remember playing it at Pizza Hut.
Not the side scroller though, not the beat 'em up.
No, the actual fighting game, the arcade fighter, where you fought like the Triceratops character, and you got to fight Shredder, Krang, and it was an awesome fighting game. And I think it was because it was really easy mechanics, and it was Ninja Turtles, so it had like this really low barrier for entry for a kid, so it was awesome. Breath of Fire 2 was an super awesome RPG that I still remember to this day because it had a really cool mechanic where you could find these shaman throughout the world, and like at some point in the game you actually unlock this lab where you can actually fuse the shaman to your party members, and you can kind of create these like ultra powerful like unique like creatures out of it. So that was a really cool mechanic. And for number 3 I would have to say Xenogears. It was an old PlayStation 1 title. No, damn it.
Like I said, we're not numbering them, so it's okay.
I'm just trying to think because Xenogears was really cool because like I grew up watching anime and crap like that, so like I loved anything with mech, so that was a really fun one. But MS Saga was actually a really good one that I liked.
Man, you old as fuck.
Dude, MS Saga was awesome. It was on the PlayStation 2. It was a Gundam RPG, so it had like this whole little RPG story, and it was turn-based combat. But the little, I guess the hook for it was that you use Gundam, like chibi Gundam characters, and they were all modular, so you could actually unlock different parts and swap them out and kind of create unique characters. So it was actually a lot of fun.
So is it like that Metabot RPG you had on the Game Boy Advance?
Kind of like Metabots, yeah.
Huh.
Oh my gosh, Metabots.
Yes.
Metabots. Oh my gosh.
That was a thing at one point. That was during the same time that Digimon was a thing as well.
This was like a therapy session. Like you unlocked something I totally forgot about. I was so into Metabots.
Yeah, man. We all were at one point.
Oh my, I used to mail in stuff to the on TV things where like you had to get your parents' permission and stuff to get the little toys.
Okay, never mind. You were way more into this than I was.
This is existential right now.
I don't even know what a Metabot is.
I'm gonna.
What?
You guys continue with the segment. I'm gonna go take a break.
Just curl up in a corner. I want to hear this because out of the all 4 of us, Sam is basically a grandpa now.
Don't do that, but I'm ever so slightly older. I'm ripe.
So what games did you play when the TVs were still black and white?
Dude, it wasn't black and white, but let me tell you about an RF adapter.
I remember RF. Oh god,
yeah,
man.
Channel 3 or Channel 4. That was the jam. Okay, 3 games from when I was a kid. X-Men arcade game in an actual arcade with the sticks, the side-scrolling beat 'em up.
So, hang on. What's an arcade?
You know what? I know that you think that's a joke, but that is a fair question now.
That is a fair question for a lot of people. A lot of kids never got the experience of, waiting for their pizza at Pizza Hut and begging their parents for quarters to play Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah, man. I actually still remember. Like, Ryan, how old are you?
I am 23.
Well, he's 2. Baby.
Yeah.
I'm only one year older than you are, but arcades were still a thing when I was growing up, so I spent a fair amount of time playing in arcades.
Well, it's because you're in Europe. You guys are like a decade behind.
Dude.
It's true. I mean, I don't know where you got the ambergris to pay for your arcade games with, or lantern oil or something, but I mean...
Golden doubloons.
All right, X-Men arcade game and Solar Jetman.
I don't even know what that is.
Solar Jetman's a Nintendo game, and it's really great. It's like you drive a spaceship, you explore, you have to find all the parts, but the physics are intense. Like the planet actually has gravity, so you have to ride the boost. You have to get away from the planet and then turn, shoot, navigate tunnels. It's awesome. It's great. Third one.
Please be something I know. Please be something I know.
That's tough.
Please say Jaws. Please say Jaws.
I want to go for something from the Super Nintendo, so I would probably pull...
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat was a way better arcade game than it ever was a console game.
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree.
Mortal Kombat 2 in arcade was a seminal fucking experience. I guess I'll pull, I don't know, Super Mario World, Super Mario RPG, one of those.
Oh, Super Mario World was a very good game. That's one. I think that was the first.
That was the first Super Nintendo
actual
game.
Console game. Yeah, and I think that is the first actual console game I played. That was my introduction to gaming at home, I guess.
I think it was a pack-in, too. I think I got it as a pack-in. Buy the console, get the game, which is staggering.
You got like remasters of the first 3 Mario games plus a Mario game called The Lost Levels.
You talking about Super Mario All-Stars?
Yeah, that was All-Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that one included Super Mario World, didn't it?
I don't think so, no.
Nope.
What?
It had 1, 2, 3, and it had that Lost Levels. And it had a weird scrimmage mode.
I was playing a lot of Nintendo back then, so I would pull from something from Blast Corps, maybe. Blast Corps was really great.
I mean, Omega Boost. Do you ever play that one?
No, I didn't.
It was like a bullet hell style game in third person where you drove a mech, and it had this badass metal soundtrack with like Static X, and man, it was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
They used to be awesome. They're still awesome.
My 3 favorite games, the Aerosmith arcade game.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
The Terminator 2 pinball machine.
That's a damn good pinball machine, that's for sure.
It was very good. Right. Shall I go?
Yeah, sure.
I'm a bit younger. Like I'm 1 year older than Ryan, but I think I'm 5 or 6 years younger than Sam is, and 4 years younger than Enrique is.
I think Enrique's as old as I am.
This is like a math problem for everybody listening.
When we're not recording segments, me and Enrique talk about our knees.
And the best way to eat a prune.
Oh.
Something like that.
I'm supposed to eat this.
All right, Chris, top 3.
Okay, when I was 12, GTA Vice City got released.
Holy shit, man.
Oh my god.
I was in college.
I thought you were going to say
Vice
GTA
City.
4.
No,
Oh my gosh, I was in 5th grade.
that was a fantastic game. I played an awful lot of that. Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, got released in 2003. I was 13 then. That was my introduction to, well, the darker side of gaming, I guess, like the darker narratives and stuff.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's a fantastic game. It's still really good today, actually. It holds up well. The graphics don't, but the gameplay does, and the story is still amazing. It's a fantastic game. And the third one, I gotta say, like, when was Warcraft 3 released? I think it was in 2003, I think.
Warcraft 3 is 2003?
It was 3 or 4. It was somewhere around that range, yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, 2002. Yeah, then I'm going to say Warcraft 3
Wow.
because,
Yeah, that was a good game. I got stuck on mods in that game. That was another one where there was a competitive, it wasn't a tower defense, hero line wars. Does that ring a bell for anybody? You had to kill waves of minions that came at you, right? And then you each had a hero, you and your teammate. And then at the same time, you could see the other team's play area and you could send minions at them and upgrade them and stuff.
yeah, I remember that.
And you got money by killing their minions. So
Yeah,
it
that was great.
awesome. I loved that game, and I've never found anything else like it other than that mod.
There's still a huge community for Warcraft 3, actually. They're still patching that motherfucker. Did you know that?
No.
They're still patching that game. It's still getting official support, which I think is amazing.
Those are pretty solid. Those are good picks. That's like mostly PC too, right?
Yeah. I up to that point, I only had one console, and that was the Super Nintendo. And then my dad got like a new PC and bought me a ton of games. Yeah.
Man, you got raised right.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of the Warcraft series, but Warcraft 3 is probably my favorite, plus the Frozen Throne. Like the whole storyline is amazing. It still is. I still like to play like every other year because it holds up really well. It's a solid RTS.
Yeah, it is. All right. So my 3, I'm kind of cheating because my Game Boy was my only source of video games for a very long time.
That's fine. There were some good Game Boy games.
Yeah, dude. Golden Sun. I have to put these 3 in. Golden Sun, Fire Emblem, and Mega Man Battle Network.
Oh, Battle Network.
Oh, Game Boy Advance.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
my fault.
I know. I was thinking he had the gray brick.
Yeah.
You have to remember, I just graduated 8th grade, so these are the games I played. But those 3 games were like, when I was a little kid, I didn't have enough money to buy games, and my parents made me buy all my games. So I had like those 3 games, and I played those for years. I don't even know, like, over 5 years, I think I was playing those, and those were just such
like,
good
real talk
games.
for a second here. Like when Mega Man Battle Network came out and I played it for the first time, it blew my fucking mind.
The Advance had an amazing catalog.
Yeah, it was those were great.
He did actually, yeah. Oh man, that's what I played. Was it Custom Robo?
That sounds familiar. That sounds really familiar.
I love it. I like the 2 oldest guys. Like, yeah, I know that game. And me and Ryan are like, what? What is this?
Oh man, I should get some Contra. I should have had some Contra on my list somewhere. Oh well, too late for that.
Next game. Oh, it's still from Game Boy's Pokemon, because that was like the first game I ever really got sucked into.
Yeah, which one? Red, blue, yellow, silver?
My first one was I got red and blue. My parents bought me red and blue for Christmas or something. So they bought me the same game twice, pretty much.
Yeah. did you? I don't. You probably agree with this, but you probably play red and blue extensively, like most people who are into Pokemon. And then you play Silver for the first time, and you saw like a huge improvement in graphic style. Like the art direction was amazing. Plus, you had a whole new region, plus the old region. It seemed like that game had an endless amount of content.
Yeah, and well, even with Yellow, because Yellow brought in some new graphical stuff, and I thought that was the most real video games would ever look. It's like, man, it's really a Pidgeotto.
Pikachu follows me everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's really pissed off at you at the start, and then slowly starts to like you more as the game goes on. I didn't really see the value in that, but it was obviously released because the TV show was gaining popularity in the West.
Yeah, and actually, Pokemon Yellow also the story was different because the story actually followed the events from the TV show.
God, that was a good game. I haven't played that in so long.
I need to get an emulator.
Yeah,
I don't have a Game Boy emulator. That's what shocks me. I've played so many games. Yeah.
Done.
I'll get it on my laptop so I can play it while I'm listening to my professors very intently. But
or I could pitch you the PSP Go. This podcast brought to you by the PSP Go, your number one emulation station.
Third game that really sticks out, and this is because my best friend had an N64 when he was little. I had a Game Boy, so I would go over to his house all the time. We'd play Bomberman 64. We'd play it all day. It's one of the greatest games, I think, in the history of video games. And
the game's real good.
Yeah,
the game, even the story mode is pretty all right.
And it has so many different game modes, and so much just funny, unpredictable stuff happens in that game. I've never played it where I wasn't dying laughing afterward. I haven't played it in about 10 years. But the point still stands. It's just an awesome game. I really love playing it. So
wow, nostalgia truly is a powerful thing.
Are there any? Now that we've all said ours, are there any games that are kind of late picks for you guys?
I would have picked one of the Contras. I would have had a Contra in there for sure.
Yeah, I probably would have had a Contra or Heavy Gear.
Heavy Gear.
Worms World Party.
It was
Yeah, why not? Of course. Those games are like the most for me, they're the most forgotten staple because like they're good, they're out there, they're great, but for some reason they never come to my mind when I'm trying to make a list of great games.
Yeah. Well, Worms is still going, but let's not talk of the more recent iterations because no. I
think it's because of like the simplicity of it, because there's nothing overly complex with like the Worms games. It's just, fun, like cute to see little worms blowing the hell out of each other with like explosive grandmas.
And I mean, Scorched Earth is still fun. So I mean, it's just like a retheme of Scorched Earth, but made more cartoony. So yeah.
my late entry would be, I talked about it earlier in this episode, Madden 04. That game is amazing. I still play it. I played it, I think, a month ago with one of my friends, and I probably know the Redskins 2004 roster 10 times better than I know their current roster.
I'll take your word for it. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're still making that game. They just changed the number at the end of the thing. You can buy it every year.
But see, you got to buy the console too. Those are the money. It's a difficult life for Madden fans.
But both virtual and in real life. Nostalgia, man. It's a trip. I haven't thought about these games in so long, but now I want to go back and replay them all.
Yeah, but that's a slippery slope.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think you really got to consider, am I going back for this game or am I going back for my childhood? Which sounds sad, but...
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's probably the latter.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely about 30 minutes of super fun. So I think it's worth it for that.
Because when you go back, living in 2015, you're used to a certain level of quality that just did not exist back in the day. So you'll probably play for about 30 minutes. And
absolutely.
As those 30 minutes go on, you start to enjoy yourself less. Like, oh, yeah, this is shit compared to what we have now. Never mind.
Well, what you're playing is you're playing a dangerous game of chicken with yourself, because if you don't want to play it so long that the next time you get nostalgic for it, you remember the moment when you went back instead of the moment you originally played it.
Oh man, nostalgia seems like so much effort.
And so you just got to be careful.
That's that's good advice for life, actually.
Maybe that's why time travel is impossible. Maybe there's a reason.
So we don't go back and realize that it's all pretty terrible.
It's Is this a time machine or a mild disappointment machine?
Well, I guess we'll find out. So stay tuned, folks.
Don't go back, kids. Don't do it.
Okay, so last week on our game club, we played Project Zomboid, and you can tune into YouTube to see our thoughts on that, and that should be out right now. And for the next week, the pick has gone to me, and we're going to start going in a more predictable order, and you'll find out what that is, because I can't think of it off the top of my head. The pick to me is I will choose Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's a first-person RPG, came out in 2004. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I think you'll like it. You're going to need a unofficial fan patch. I consider that to be almost essential. So, get on there. Play some Vampire the Masquerade this week. Let us know what you thought.
I'm so excited for this. It's a great game. Looking forward to playing it again, because it has been years since I last played it.
Yeah, me too, but I remember it very fondly.
Yeah. Let's see if it holds up.
I think it will. And that will bring us to the end of episode 19 of the Select Characters podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. As always, you can find us online. Send us an email with topic suggestions and your thoughts to selectcharacters@gmail.com. Check out our YouTube channel where we got new stuff coming up.